Hi, this is Jeff Blauette, technical agronomist with Cooperative Farmers Elevator. And on this week's Field Friday segment, obviously out in the cornfield here, as you drive around our area, you see an awful lot of these fields, especially as we get into our glacial soils to the east. But an awful lot of questions around nitrogen, all the water and all the rain that we've had this year, and what's the status of our nitrogen levels that we've had in the fields here. So a little bit of an understanding of the things that happen to nitrogen in the field would probably be a good background here. I know we do a lot of the nitropyrin, the Instinct, and the N-Serve type nitrogen stabilizers. I know the question's been the last couple of years, it's been so dry, have we gotten much out of them because we didn't lose any nitrogen because we didn't have enough water doing that? This is the reason why you do it, is a year like this. We couldn't predict this. We've had, a exceedingly high amount of rain this year so far, and we're not even into June yet. So I guess to understand what Instinct did for us, and it might be still doing for us, as we applied that nitrogen or the N-Serve in the fall anhydrous, it's keeping that nitrogen from converting down to the nitrate form, which leaches away with water. Obviously, we've all seen these tile lines running pretty hard now. We've had water flushing through the system now. If that nitrogen had enough warm soils where it converted from the form we applied it into the nitrate form, it could be leaving some of that, as the water goes through the profile, so we could end up being short there. That's where, our nitrification inhibitors are helping us. So that's one facet of it. If you didn't have the nitrogen stabilizer on, there's nothing you can do to fix that. We maybe have to look at some measurements or do some assessments if we think we need to top dress or add some more. Another thing that we've probably got going on with some of these fields where they're sitting there saturated, especially these areas where water's sat, the fields just are slow to dry in areas where the tiles can't keep up. We run into another problem, that's denitrification. Denitrification is that conversion process in mostly waterlogged or really saturated soils where that forms of nitrogen convert into a gaseous form and leave, basically due to volatilization, and it's coming from the soil because of that soil moisture condition. That's another thing that we have this year that we haven't had for a number of years, so there's another factor that could come into play. It's one of the reasons why you see the corn in the bottom of terraces and in these wet spots or wet areas that if you get a wetter year is yellow, and that's because of the nitrogen loss, and it probably was more the volatilization form than it was going down through the profile would be my guess. But either way, you may be short of nitrogen in those areas, and if they're large enough areas to consider making a management practice change, you may need to look at throwing some more nitrogen on those. Something else we've got that's probably done really well this year is our mineralization. Basically our soil's ability to break down organic matter and the old residues and supply nitrogen. The last couple of years our topsoils have been dry enough that process has probably been really slow and maybe somewhat minimized, and we figured, well, we've got a lot of mineralization that's going to happen here. If we ever do get rain, we should have extra nitrogen around. We probably did. In fact, we probably had a lot of nitrogen that could have been available that way, but the fact also remains we might be losing that with the same mechanisms I've already discussed. So I guess as far as what can we do about it now, there's still time to make some top dress or some side dress applications if you're sure you need it. We do a lot of soil, late spring soil nitrate test, it's called. It's a 12-inch soil nitrate core, basically measuring the nitrate levels in the top 12 inches. Iowa State has some numbers that we know at what levels we think we're going to need more nitrogen. Yes, there's nitrogen below 12 inches. There isn't really a good correlated number at 24 inches to know exactly what we really should have in our soils. It's another factor that you could evaluate and use that as a piece of information. If there's a lot of nitrogen down in that 12 to 24 inch level, then the corn still has the opportunity to take that up. But as far as a measurement strategy, that's probably the best one, is a late spring nitrate test if you really want to get a measurement of what you think we might need going forward while we have time to do something about it. So just another facet to consider about nitrogen loss. If we do top dress, we can put a stabilizer. It's a different stabilizer that we'll put on typically with that, but when you're laying nitrogen on top of the ground, if you're top dressing a dry, for instance, there is the chance for the wrong weather conditions that can volatilize just laying on the surface and go to the air as well. Obviously, you'd like to put it on and get a rain shortly after, but that doesn't always happen. Even this year, you might have it lay there for a while, and if we have warm, windy, humid conditions with a lot of sunshine and fairly damp soils, those are ideal conditions for that nitrogen to kind of move on us and go into the atmosphere rather than in the soil. So we have the volatilization type inhibitors that we'll apply with that top dress nitrogen. It's not all stabilizers are equal. Just understand what you're getting and why you're using that form. But just wanted to touch on something that we're probably going to run into this year that we kind of maybe 3 months ago didn't expect we'd have to worry about that. But I think nitrogen management could be an important part of this year, and let's not let it get away from us if we have some of these saturated conditions especially. So with that, that's this week's Field Friday segment, and we'll see you next week.